Ali Mirza. He is a Harvard Kennedy School graduate. I don't know how he got picked necessarily to give a speech. Was he the valedictorian?
We'll
But
check that out.
I think a lot of these universities, and this is a graduate program, this is a different thing, but I think a lot of these institutions have sort of learned their lesson that you might as well let people say what they want to say instead of shutting down these things. But
although Harvard, we said this yesterday, isn't allowing 13 students to get their diplomas.
He brings this up.
Oh, he does.
Listen
okay.
to this. Yeah.
To address the urgency of the moment we find ourselves in. We are witnesses to a world that is in upheaval. We're in America, the supposed shining city on the hill. We can denounce the invasion of Ukraine, yet we drive the genocide and occupation of Palestinians and use police force to brutalize young people who dare speak up against it. Upon our graduation from Harvard, we enter the world with a degree from an institution that has profited off and continues to aid in the annihilation of 40,000 Palestinians in Gaza, including 15,000 children. An institution that uses its soft power to prop up an apartheid regime. While we celebrate our graduation, Harvard University, threatened by the student uprising for Palestinian liberation, has chosen to withhold degrees from our peers, who have not only fulfilled every graduation requirement, but more importantly, who have exemplified Veritas through their dissent. While these students may not leave with the degrees they rightfully earned, they will walk out of Harvard's gates with something far more important: a clear conscience and a proof of resolute commitment to humanity. Take courage from their steadfastness and honor their sacrifice by using your degree to speak out for the oppressed. While Harvard punishes its pro-Palestine students, the ongoing Nakba in Gaza represents the very worst of the status quo. All universities are decimated. Journalists have been killed en masse. Children are still buried under the rubble of their homes, hospitals, and schools. All of this occurring in the past 7 months alone with the complicity of this institution and nation. But even amidst this catastrophe, spanning back over 76 years, we find the best of humanity. Last year, members of my cohort and I visited occupied Palestine. We saw resilience. We saw resilience take the form of indigenous farming practices, the preservation of heritage through art, and the beauty of community and solidarity as resistance.
Good for that guy. I don't know why he was chosen to speak. Do we know? Nevertheless, it's good for that to be out there. And, a lot of those Kennedy School of Government people obviously go into government, and we need more of that.
It's wild to see graduating students have such a grasp of the moment and see the reaction the corporate administration is taking to this moment.
So apparently he is at the Kennedy School speaking and has a master's in public policy. So I don't know if that
faculty must have chosen him.
Right.
That's usually that's how I spoke at graduation.
Oh.
Ooh. Humble brag.
Oh.
Wasn't my GPA.
Do tell.
Well,
I spoke at Minnesota State 2012.
Where's the vid?
It's online, but it might be tough to find it. I hope nobody finds it.
Somebody's gonna find it.
I hope it's not easily found because it's not on YouTube. But anyway, yeah. I did not have the urgency. My speech was around we have these things clear projects that we need to be participating in as a society, like addressing climate change, and nobody's doing it. It was metaphorical of my parents had a shed they always wanted to build and they never did it. So these kids are a little bit more grounded, I think, in the actual world than I was.
But very cool. I mean, I was at my sister's law school graduation recently, and you could, like 30% of the students either wearing keffiyehs or, like my sister, very proud of her, wearing a Palestine flag on her lapel, basically. And the speaker at the law school was also alluding to it. Like, it's on everybody's mind. It's on the faculty's mind. It's on the kids' minds, or the students' minds, I should say. And it's really the administration that's standing in the way. And you kind of just, everything about American higher education and the rot that's at the core of it is kind of just laid bare in this situation, where it's the educators and the educated versus an administration that's beholden to wealthy donors and benefactors. And that's the divide. And we just kind of see how bloated like that amount of money, the donors, the alumni, that whole part of the university experience has just it's really harm students long term. Those kids aren't going to be, students aren't going to be able to get their degrees. It's outrageous.
That story in the Times about those millionaires and billionaires calling Eric Adams still haunts me. And I've mentioned this before. I had a friend who worked for a billionaire for a short period of time.
Wow.
Is like one of like 5 sort of like lieutenants. And I hadn't realized he had been working for this guy. And after he was done, we had lunch. And he goes, look, I know, he says to me, he goes, I know you think that the way this guy operates in the world is horrible. And he says, and I got to tell you, it's worse. Like he said, he saw him call this was, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, call a president of a major university and just bitch at him for something he saw in the paper. Like just like huge, like
that's what Robert Kraft's been doing, by the way. I mean, he withdrew all of his money from Columbia, even after they did all that, even after they sparked national outrage for sending the NYPD on their own students. He said it was insufficient to combat anti-Semitism, which his ads are all over the NFL media for his stupid, pro-Zionist thing. But he withdrew his money anyway, which was just a show of discipline.
Yep.
Like the fact that you even allowed these kids to stand up to genocide means my money's gone.
Yeah,
and
we just they should not be allowed to accrue this kind of money.
Yeah, I was obsessed with the Nixon tapes for a while, a decade ago, because you could actually hear powerful people discussing things sort of behind the scenes. This text from Haim Saban, where you realize, oh, this is what our elected leaders are dealing with every day, just like random screeds.
This is from the
Axios reported on this. Yeah.
It's just like, him, can you please share with the president, dear President Biden, we the U, like this is a crazy person.
Yeah, I'll read this right now. Hi, Steve and Anita. Anita Dunn.
Anita Dunn and Steve Ricchetti, Biden's advisors, yeah.
Can you please share this with the president? Dear President Biden, we, the U.S., as you stated numerous times, believe that Hamas should be defeated. We, the U.S. We, the U.S., in this case, you. Well, this is what the weird part is, too. He all caps this like any type of lunatic that you always come across in any context.
Trump? Like he has the weird, this weird kind of texting style.
In this case, you, Mr. President, have decided to stop sending munitions to Israel to achieve the goal that we/you have set up for Israel and ourselves. Even beyond Israel, this sends a terrible message to our allies in the region. And beyond that, his punctuation is also just bizarre.
Maybe he should have gone to college.
That's not what he didn't get the billions by punctuation.
Yeah, we can flip from doing the right thing to bending to political pressure. I assume he meant thing, unless there's some special, like a billionaire.
It's the Nicki Minaj.
Let's not forget that there are more Jewish voters who care about Israel than Muslim voters that care about Hamas. Bad, bad, bad decision on all levels. Please reconsider. Thank you. With respect, Haim. Yeah, that's, I use respect in the same way that Haim does. I will say.
What?
Well, I will say, I think you can go back to every debate I've ever had, and I go, like, with all respect.
Yeah.
I think it's quite possible. And early on, we were saying, Haim Saban, that texts like that influence Biden more than we understand. The fact of the matter is that there may be more Jews who care about Israel than there are Muslims who care about Hamas. But I don't think that there are more Jews who agree with this policy than there are Muslims who agree with this policy. Or frankly, like I suspect that that the issue for Muslims, some instances it may be Hamas, but it's more has to do with the killing of civilians and the genocide that's going on. And I suspect that there is not going to be, regardless of, let me put it this way. Had Joe Biden said, I call for a ceasefire a week after Israel had started its assault, or had said, be more measured, I feel quite confident that Joe Biden would not have lost a single Jewish vote from what he had in 2020. Every year we hear this, that Jews are going to, and I think he may lose more Jewish votes now based upon his actions than he would have had he called for a ceasefire 6 months ago.
Well, because the dirty secret that no one for some reason in the media is telling you, or like, I don't understand why we haven't had polling on this front, but it's that Jewish people, specifically young Jewish people, are overrepresented in these protests. Overrepresented. It is right now a big part of activism for young Jewish leftists, with organizations like If Not Now or Jewish Voice for Peace and campus organizations, because they're trying to get the word out and get attention to the fact that their identity and their religion
is being hijacked.
And so, like, there needs to be, I'm sorry, some sort of research or poll of Jewish Americans in particular right now. I don't know why that hasn't happened yet, but it's not what's being portrayed in the press whatsoever in terms of support for Israel's genocide.
Well, Emma,
yeah.
Do you know what another word for Jews who don't subscribe to Israel's genocide is?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe we can have somebody with a totally squeaky clean record let us know.
Harvard professor.
Yes, let's hear from Alan Dershowitz.
Not just in his underwear today.
To tell us where all the anti-Semitism is at the moment, folks.
You'll never guess.
You'll never guess. Here is Alan Dershowitz going to tell you where all the anti-Semitism is.
Let me tell you, the worst department in terms of anti-Semitism and anti-Israel department are Jewish studies departments. Why? Who's hired to become a Jewish studies professor? They're talking dogs. Let me explain who they are.
Jesus.
They are failed Israeli professors. They couldn't get a job at Tel Aviv. They couldn't get a job in Bar Ilan. They couldn't get a job in Hebrew University. And so they come to America. And there are thousands of them, third and fourth rate Israelis, who come to America. And if you say, hey, I'm an Israeli and I support Netanyahu and I graduated the Herzliya Institute, you're not getting a job. But if you're a talking dog, I'm an Israeli, but I'm a virulent anti-Zionist, you're getting the job. And so Jewish Studies Department, Hebrew Studies, Holocaust Studies Department are populated by the worst anti-Zionists and some of the worst self-hating Jews. Let me tell you.
Oh my God! What a disgusting, despicable,
alleged pedophile who for some reason can just go out and speak.
To be fair, Virginia Giuffre did have to say she may have been mistaken that she slept with him multiple times. So that's where it stands. Just to legally cover our bases there. She may have been
I said
mistaken.
alleged.
May have not. May have been mistaken.
I will say this though. I feel quite confident in staying and saying, and I feel quite confident from a legal perspective in saying that Alan Dershowitz is a douchebag and a piece of human garbage.
Yeah.
Is it anti-Semitic to call Jewish studies professors, quote, talking dogs, not once but twice in that screed?
What an amazing mentality this sad, sad man has. I look forward to his support of Donald Trump going forward and him to be excommunicated from every single place that he holds dear. what just a horrible human being he is.
And also, there's an interview with Avi Shlaim, quick thoughts Avi Shlaim on Israel's new historians Hamas and the BDS movement. It's from a while ago, I think, 2017. But it goes into, there's a brief open period where there was a lot of scholarship and the new historians were being published and read widely within Israel. And then the Second Intifada happened, and Likud and various right-wing parties basically did the whole critical race theory, anti-DEI thing there, and now all of a sudden you see all these professors operating outside the country.
This is just such a right-wing construction too, and you can just see how religious fundamentalism or nationalism, as it comes in the case of Zionism, it doesn't. There can be Hindu nationalism. We know that there's Christian fundamentalism and nationalism. Religion can be used in any way to justify right-wing beliefs, and it doesn't mean that Israel is, because of past persecution the Jewish people have faced, is above that kind of far right movement being put to the fore. And he's, I'm sure, referring to people like Annalise Orlek, who is a professor at Dartmouth College. Apparently she's a talking dog, but she was arrested at the pro-Palestine demonstrations, and she's the head of Jewish studies.
Yeah, it's like,
and banned, temporarily suspended from Dartmouth, by the way, because apparently, according to Dershowitz, these institutions are just dying to have anti-Zionist professors come to their universities, just dying for it.
The way that he keeps sort of like shifting from anti-Zionist to anti-Semites and then self-hating Jews. I think he's also confusing self-hating Jews with people who just hate his self. That is
Dershowitz hating Jews.
Yes, I'm a Dershowitz hating Jew.
Anti-Semitism is when you give him the stink eye at a 5-star restaurant in Oak Bluffs.
That's right. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.